One piece of evidence that could help turn back the clock is a set of 4 small holes located near one of the cloth's edges. Called the poker holes, their origin is not fully understood. Deep in the Budapest National Library lies the Prey manuscript, the oldest surviving text of the Hungarian language. Within its pages is an illustration of Christ being prepared for his entombment. The cloth that will wrap his body is clearly visible, but it is the degree of detail that has excited historians. The illustration shows the shroud's characteristic herringbone weave and 4 holes that appear to match the pattern on the shroud. All this is made more remarkable when one considers that the Prey manuscript has been dated to 1190, 70 years before the earliest carbon-14 date for the shroud's creation. But is there any physical evidence that could date the shroud even earlier? The answer may lie in the town of Oviedo, in northern Spain. Here, kept inside a silver ark, brought to the town from Jerusalem in the 6th century, there exists what many believe to be the sister cloth of the Shroud of Turin.
This large silver-coated chest or ark that we can see here actually came from Jerusalem. It's the original box. It's incredible that it's still here. Inside it were all of these smaller boxes that we can see around here, and inside the smaller boxes were all kinds of objects and relics, among which was the Sudarium.
The Sudarium is a piece of poor quality linen, much like a handkerchief, stained with blood and bodily fluids. Jewish belief dictates that the human soul is carried in the blood. When somebody suffered a violent death in Christ's time, a Sudarium would have been wrapped around the face to catch the blood. Hidden from the public for a millennium, this dirty, creased cloth bears a pattern of stains similar to that of the shroud. And chemical analysis has revealed that the blood on the Sudarium matches the blood on the Shroud of Turin.
We know that the central stain was formed by a body hanging in an upright position with the arms outstretched. The head was leaning to the right and also slightly forwards. Now, the Sudarium was first pinned to the back of the head. There are actually pinholes in the original that shows how it was pinned into the hair. The cloth was then brought round to the front, and it came across an obstacle. The idea would have been to wrap the cloth entirely around the head, but what happened was that the head was actually stuck to the arm due to rigor mortis setting in very quickly after a traumatic death. Hence, the Sudarium was folded back on itself in the first position like this, which is why we have the groups of parallel stains when this liquid seeped through the cloth. This wound here, the body was still alive when this blood came out of the back of the head. And if we overlay this part of the Sudarium onto the same area of the shroud, then the actual shape of the stains fits in perfectly.
Although the Sudarium lacks the detail of the shroud, Guskin believes it bears the image of a man's face.
We can see the stain that corresponds to the beard area. We're talking about a bearded male. We can see the base stain of liquid that came out through the nose, and how the other stains were formed when the first stain had dried. That's where we have different edges, and we can make all of them out. At a later time, the cloth was wrapped all the way around the head, and most probably tied in a knot here at the top. And then, when the body reached the tomb, what most probably happened was this cloth, the Sudarium, could have just been very easily lifted off the head like that, rolled up on itself, as it says in the fourth Gospel, and left to one side.
The earliest written reference to the Shroud of Turin dates back only to the 14th century. The Sudarium's written record is far more complete, which has enabled Mark Guskin to trace its history further back in time.
There are various documents from various cities copied in various countries, all in different places. There are manuscripts in France, in Belgium, that tell us the story of the Sudarium. This is a well-established history of this cloth that came from Jerusalem to Spain and has been in Spain since the 7th century, since the beginning of the 7th century.
In the 1980s, forensic tests carried out on both the Sudarium and the Shroud revealed that they contain the same AB blood type, found in just 3% of the global population. If the cloths wrap the same body, then at the very least, the Shroud could predate the carbon dating by 600 years.
Laboratory tests have shown virtually without doubt that these cloths were used on the same body. It's not really a question of doubting the carbon dating, it's just saying it doesn't fit in with what we know. We don't need to doubt it, it's just wrong.
That the Sudarium, a dirty piece of cloth with no monetary or artistic value, has been revered in this way suggests that it must have held special significance for the people who preserved it. Mark Guskin believes it holds the blood of Christ.
Everything points towards this cloth having been used on the body of Jesus of Nazareth. I know that we'll never be able to prove it scientifically and historically, but the same is also true the other way round. Nobody can prove that it wasn't.
Shroud expert Aldo Gureschi believes that the water stains formed as a result of the cloth having been folded with accordion-style pleats.
This turns out to be a simple, effective, and ancient way of folding a sheet. If we place the sheet at this particular angle and put it into this replica jar, we can imagine that the condensation or penetration of water when at this angle could be the cause of these markings.
Gureschi believes the Shroud was once kept in a clay jar similar to those found 2,000 years ago near the Dead Sea. This type of container was used for storing objects of value during the 1st century. He is trying an experiment to replicate the water stains. This is the corner of fabric that would have been immersed inside the jar.
Okay, penso che potrebbe andare. I'll take that away.
When the cloth is unfolded, the pattern of water stains does closely match that of the actual shroud.
So this does seem to be in a jar that was actually used because of the way the folding was not tight as in a box, but with that rather loose way that Aldo demonstrated. And so the idea is a sort of tall jar, very like the sort of jars that were used in Qumran for keeping the Dead Sea Scrolls and so on. So conceivably, looking back to the 1st century AD.
But the most convincing evidence linking the cloth to the 1st century came during Mechtilde Fleury-Lemberg's recent restoration of the shroud. A leading authority on historic textiles, Fleury-Lemberg was shocked by the shroud's distinctive sewing style. She had seen such a weave only once before, in textiles discovered amid the ruins of the Middle East fortress of Masada, on the coast of the Dead Sea. The Masada cloths were dated to within 70 years of Christ's birth. This type of stitching has never been found in medieval Europe.
We have so many signs that this piece of linen is done in the 1st century.
If Fleury-Lemberg is right, then it is possible that this cloth could be the Shroud of Christ. But with so much conflicting evidence, the debate rages on.
Reopen investigations of the past at PBS Online. History is revealing its forgotten secrets at pbs.org. Secrets of the Dead.